如果你想用中文流利的和别人沟通的话，那你必须先掌握以下这些最常用到的动词哈。Hi, I'm Luke Neale. I lived in China for over a decade. I speak Mandarin fluently and co-founded Mandarin Blueprint. Our online courses are helping thousands of members reach advanced university-level Chinese in a fraction of the time. And before we get into today's content, do not forget to click the link in the description below to download our free PDF complete with studio quality male and female audio files for all of the examples from this video, English, Chinese, and Chinese only, so you can practice offline. You'll also gain access to a course and app if you prefer that format, which houses all of our lesson resources and any other ones we create in the future or ones we create in the past. Click the link below to get all that insane value for free and acquire all the language in today's video properly. I've arranged these from most common to relatively least common, although all of them are super common in speech. We're just going to get started with the ones that will give you the most bang for your buck. Starting with 是, this means to be. 这是我的. This is mine. 那不是他的. That is not his. You notice Chinese has no verb conjugation. Thanks, Chinese. Next, 有, to have. 我有一本书. I have a book. 这里没有厕所. Here, no have, toilet. 没 is specifically used with 有 to say no have, not have in Chinese. We do not say 不有. 不 is the most common no or not in Chinese. We can also use 没有 to negate the past, to say something in the past did not happen. 我没有骗你. I did not cheat you, or I did not lie to you. Next up, 听, to listen. 他在听音乐. He is listening to music. In order to express something is happening right now in Chinese, you say 在 before the verb. 你能听下我的意见吗? That 下 in there softens the suggestion or request and makes it much more polite and more gentle. If you just said without the 下, 你能听我的意见吗? It's a little bit more confrontational. Next, 说, 老师说今天没有作业. The teacher said there's no homework today. 你别说了，我不想听. Stop speaking, I don't want to listen. Next, 读, 他每天都会读英语. 他, she, 每天, every day, 都会. That basically says every day will or does read English. That 会 is used when you intend to do something in the future. We'll probably come across it again in today's video. And you will notice that I've organized these verbs not just from most common to least common, but also in categories. So we've got 听, 说, 读, so listening, speaking, reading, and we've got one more left, which is 写, to write or writing. 你写的字很好看. Your handwriting is very nice. 他写了一部小说. He wrote a novel. The measure word for novel is 部. 快过来. Come here quick. 看这个. Look at this. Can is also used in the other word for reading, the more casual word, which is 看书. 我在看书. I am reading. I am looking at a book, literally. Can also means to look after something, to watch something. For example, 你帮我看下行李. 看下, there's that 下 again for request to make it more polite and softer. It's also the word you use for going to see a doctor. 我下午还要去看医生. I need to go see a doctor this afternoon. Next up, 吃. 他在吃苹果. He is eating an apple. 吃 to eat is also used in the figurative sense a lot. For example, when you are surprised, Chinese people say 吃一惊, literally eat a surprise. 听到这个事情, 他大吃一惊. He was startled to hear the news. The word 吃亏, literally to eat a deficiency, is the word for getting in trouble or getting hurt or damaged in some way, usually financially or otherwise. 太容易相信别人会吃亏. It's easy to get hurt if you trust others too much. Instead of saying, I'm not going to buy that, as in I don't believe it, in Chinese we can say, 她可不吃你这一套. She will not buy that. She's not going to buy that. Next, 喜欢 to like. 他喜欢看电影. He likes to watch movies. Could also mean like, as in, do you like someone? Are you into someone? 你喜欢他吗? Next up, 喝 to drink. 他正在喝牛奶. 正在 just as the same as 在. It's just the longer way of saying it. she's drinking milk. Here's an interesting one for you. You might not have known about China. 在中国, in China, 你可以在公共场合喝啤酒. You can drink beer in public. Next up is 拉 to pull. 他拉着我的手. He is pulling my hand, or he held my hand. Chinese is a far more contextual language when it comes to the present, the future, the past. A lot of it is just understood by the context of what's being said. So 拉着, that 着 there's another way of saying things are happening, but it could also be happening like past continuous in the past, or maybe even in the future or the present. It all depends on what's being said at the time. 拉 is also used to play certain instruments. 他会拉二胡. He can play the erhu, a Chinese instrument. 拉 is also the verb used when it comes to going for a number two. And you can look that one up yourself. Next up is 玩, to play. 孩子们, children, 在公园里玩. The children are playing in the park. We also, as adults, use 玩 for going out and partying or having a good time, eating, drinking, that kind of thing, as well as playing with things that you shouldn't, such as fire. 别玩火 or 玩火, either are fine. 很危险, dangerous. Don't play with fire, it's dangerous. Next up, 想, and this is an interesting one because it can mean several different things depending on how it's used. So 想 is to desire to do something. So 我想吃饭. I want to eat. I want to have a meal. And it can also be think or consider. 我在想明天做什么. I'm thinking about what to do tomorrow. And it can mean to miss someone or something. 你想家了吗? Do you miss home? Are you homesick? Next up, 爱, love, to love. 我爱你, I love you. To love, 爱 is also used to describe when someone just does stuff a lot, even if it's a bad thing. For example, 他很爱撒谎. He's a big liar. He loves to lie. Next, 做, to do. 你在做什么? What are you doing? 做 is also the word to use for have a dream. 他昨天做了一个奇怪的梦. 奇怪 is strange, and 梦 is dream. He had a strange dream yesterday. You can also use 做 for pulling a face. 他对着我做了一个鬼脸. 鬼脸 is like a funny face. He made a face at me. Next verb, 咬, to bite. 那个小孩被狗咬了. 被 is how you talk about things that happened to someone. So you would say in Chinese, 被 and then the thing that happened to them. The child was bitten by the dog. Next up, 打. 打 means to hit, but it's also incredibly versatile. It's used to describe a bunch of different things in a bunch of different ways. So of course there's the direct to hit. 你为什么要打人? This could be, why do you hit people? Why did you hit him or me? Specifically, again, it's context dependent. It's also used to call a car or get a taxi. 我要打车, and to make a call on the phone. 有事就打我电话. Next up is 抓, to grab. 警察, police, 抓住了. So they grabbed him, and the 住 was like a compliment to saying like, I grabbed him fast. Like I grabbed him there and he's stuck there. 抓 is also used in the figurative sense. So for example, 他被上司抓住了把柄. So 把柄 here means leverage, some information you've got on someone that you can dob them in, you can get them in trouble. So I've got you by the 把柄. Next up, very similar to 抓 is 握. 抓 is more like a quick grab, whereas 握 is like squeezing when you shake someone's hand. In fact, that's probably how it's most commonly used. 握手 is to shake hands. 他紧紧地握住我的手. There's that 住 again, saying that he didn't just shake my hand, he grabbed it and he held on for a moment. Next up is 带, to bring something. 他给我带了礼物. This is how it's most commonly used, probably. 带礼物, to bring a gift. When you go to someone's house in China, always 带礼物. 你能带我去北京吗? Can you take me to Beijing? Next up is 拍, and this is another one that's used in at least two very different ways. So there is the 拍, which just means to pat. 他拍了拍身上的灰尘, so he patted down the dust off his clothes. And if you say 拍马屁, to pat the horse's bum, that means to suck up to someone. 他拍马屁最厉害. He's really good at flattering people. Super common but very different way of using 拍 is also to take a picture. 你能帮我拍张照片吗? Next up is 拔. 拔 is when you pull up something, usually by the roots. That's where it originally comes from. So if you 拔 a tree or a plant, you're pulling it up by the roots. It's also commonly used with plugs and plug sockets. 你能把充电线拔掉吗? Can you unplug the charger? And it's also used for taking out your teeth. 我上周去拔牙了. 上周 last week went to 拔牙, take my tooth out, or have my teeth taken out by a dentist. And the opposite of 拔, when it comes to plug sockets anyway, is to 插, to insert something. 麻烦插上电源. So if you just say 麻烦 at the beginning of any general request, it makes it more polite. 麻烦插上电源, please plug in the power. 插 also pairs with 手 to mean to butt in and get involved in a matter that's probably nothing to do with you. To 插手, 这件事情你别插手. Don't get involved in this matter. Or 插嘴 means to interrupt someone or to stop the conversation, to give your own point of view. Next up, we've got 抱, which means to cuddle. I use this a lot. So I've got 2 young children and they often use it with me. So they'll say 爸爸抱抱, Dad, cuddle. 我要抱一下 or 我要抱抱. When you see 抱抱, is doubling up words makes it kind of cutesy. Often it's like kids' language, you double up loads of different verbs, but also softens a lot of things. You know, we talked about can earlier, to look, but if instead of saying can, you say can, double it up, then it's like softens it. It's like, oh, I'm just having a look. And this word is also used in a very abstract way of holding on to hopes. So 抱希望 is literally hold high hopes or have any hope for something. 我反正对这件事情不抱希望. I don't have any hope for this matter anyway. Next is 搞, and it's a very broad sort of casual word that is to do. And it's often paired up with other verbs or adjectives to make new casual sounding words. So for example, just the straight up, what are you doing? 你在搞什么? You could also say 你在做什么? That's another way of saying what are you doing? But 搞 is kind of like a more casual way of saying it. 我的电脑, my computer 搞好了. Like, has it been done well? Is it done, finished now? That may is just another way of saying ma. It's another way of saying a question mark in Chinese, and it's also very, very casual. Next up is 弄. 弄 is very similar to 搞. That's why I put them together here, because it also means do, and it's also very versatile, used in lots of different ways, and it's very casual sounding. 你去弄点吃的. Go and fix something to eat. 我弄不明白. I can't understand this thing. That 弄 is just saying I can't do it, I can't figure it out. 你能别弄弟弟吗? Like, can you just stop teasing your younger brother? And here you could also use 搞. It's pretty much interchangeable with 弄. You could also say 弄坏. So you take something and you break it. 你小心一点，别弄坏了我的手机. Be careful, don't break my phone. Next up, a very handy one. This is what you're doing right now. 学. 学 means to learn. 你学中文多久了? How long have you been learning Chinese? It's also used to mimic or imitate someone or something. 你会学鸟叫吗? Can you mimic a bird? And it's also common to say, learn from someone as a good example or a bad example. 别学你弟弟. Don't learn from your younger brother. Or 要学你哥哥. You want to learn from your older brother. Next up, 来, to come. 你什么时候来的? You, when, come, 的. So that 的 is like signifying something happening in the past. 来 is also a very casual sounding way of expressing that you're going to come and do something. 我来给大家唱个歌. I'll sing a song for everyone. 来 is also really common with drinking. 来来来来来. People say 来来来来 when they hold up the drinks and basically they're saying, come on everyone, have a drink. Next up is 去, to go. 你去过北京吗? Have you been to Beijing? 去 is also used in various swear words. Not like really high level, painful to hear swear words, but kind of relatively mediocre sounding swear words. So you could say 我去, that means, oh man, oh my God. Or 去你的, that's actually a bit more serious. Be careful with that one. It means go to hell, basically. Next up, 回, to return. 他回家了. He went home. And you can also use this for returning a call. 你记得回他电话. Remember to 回 his phone call, return his phone call. And 回头 is to turn your head back and look behind you. 你别回头, don't turn back. That's literally and figuratively. Next verb for you, 给. 给 means to give. 请把书给我. Please give me the book. Next up is 送, which is deliver or to give something. 他送了女朋友一朵花. He gave a flower to his girlfriend. And in Chinese culture, it's very polite and kind of expected when someone leaves your house to see them out. 我送你出去, I'll walk you to the door, I'll walk you out. And something I do every morning almost, 我等下还要送小孩去学校. I have to take my child to school later. Next, 拿, which means to bring or to take something. 我去拿个杯子. So if you're in a group of people, you say, oh, I want to go get a cup. I'll go get a cup. It's also used in a couple of more abstract ways, like 你能拿它怎么办? What can you do about him? Or what are we going to do with this guy? Or if you're getting a prize of some kind, 他打球拿了一等奖. He got first prize in the game. Next up, 洗, to wash. 妈妈在洗衣服. Mom is washing clothes. 我今晚要洗头. I need to wash my hair tonight. Next, 推. 他用力推开门 or 推开门, depending on how you want to say it. The there, as in 玩 or 玩, 花 or 花, 门 or 门. It just makes it sound more casual when you say the at the end. So he pushed open the door with force. 推 is not just literally push, but it's also figuratively to push something back. 我想把这件事, I want to take this thing, 往后推几天, or put it off for a few days. Next up, sing, 唱. 你会唱中文歌吗? Can you sing Chinese songs? Next up is 叫, which can also be used in a bunch of different ways. So one of the most common ways is to call someone. 你能帮忙叫下小王吗? Can you call 小王 for me? And you can also use this to say, I am called, or he is called. 我叫 Luke. My name is Luke. I'm called Luke. Paired up nicely with 叫 is another verb, 喊, which is to shout. 他大声地喊. He shouted loudly. 你别喊了, 他不会回来了. Stop shouting, he's not coming back. Next up, 画, to draw. 妹妹在画画. Little sister is drawing. Next up is 弹. We covered la earlier for playing certain instruments. 弹 is specifically for strings. So he can play the piano. Yes, that's a string instrument, right? 他会弹钢琴. He can play the piano. 他吉他弹得挺好的. He plays the guitar quite well. Next up is 借, to borrow or to lend. In Chinese, it's the same word for both meanings. 我借了她1万块. I borrowed 10,000 yuan from her. Next up is a very interesting one because this character, like I believe around 20% of common characters, has multiple pronunciations. When a character is pronounced differently, in most situations, it means something very different. Now, with most characters with multiple pronunciations, it usually has one pronunciation that's super common or the most common by far. So the most common pronunciation for this character is 还, which means still. 他怎么还没来呢? How has he still not come yet? Why hasn't he come yet? But when you pronounce this character 还, it means something completely different. It means to return something you've borrowed. 记得把东西还我. Remember to take the things and return them to me. Remember to give me back my things. Next up is 接, to receive. 我去机场接朋友 means I'm going to the airport to pick up a friend. That's what we would always do in China as well. And you also use it for phone calls, to receive phone calls. 稍等, wait a moment, 我接个电话. I'm just going to receive a phone call. Next up is another verb that also means to receive, but usually for things. So for example, 她生日收到了很多礼物. She received many gifts on her birthday. 麻烦你收一下邮件. Please check your emails. We also have 收费 for taking money for something, charging money. 他们是来收费的. They're here to collect the fees. Next up is 哭. 那个小孩哭得很伤心. That child is crying really badly or really sadly. Paired up nicely with 哭 is 笑, to laugh or to smile. 他开心地笑了. He smiled happily. 你笑起来真好看. You look great when you smile. You have a beautiful smile. Next up, 跳, to jump. 他跳起来能摸到篮筐. He can touch the rim when he jumps. 跳 also means beat, as in heartbeat. 我的心跳得很厉害. My heart is beating very fast. Next up is 爬, which means either to climb or to crawl, and it also means to slither for snakes, depending on the context. 我们去爬山吧. Let's go climb a mountain. Next verb is 躺, with the third tone, meaning to lie down. 他躺在沙发上. He is lying on the sofa. 坐 is the next verb, meaning to sit. 请坐这儿, please sit here. We also use that when we're a passenger in a car. 他打算坐车去上班. He plans on taking a car, like sitting in the back of a car, as in taking a taxi to go to work. Oh, it could also be a bus. Next up is 走, meaning to walk. Now, this is another one that also means a few other things depending on the context. So, 走快一点, 快迟到了. That would be walk faster, we're going to be late. But 走 also means to leave. 车刚走了, the bus or the car just left. And it could also mean to die. 他的奶奶, his grandmother, 去年, last year, 走了, passed away. His grandmother passed away last year. Next up is 跑, meaning to run. 他跑得非常快. He runs very fast. And 跑 also means to run around doing errands. So if someone does something for you, goes and gets something for you from another place and brings it to your house, for example, you might say, 辛苦你跑一趟. Thank you for running this errand. Next up is 站, to stand. 他站在门口. He stood at the door. Next up, 开, 打开窗户, 通通风, 通通风. That means to open the window in order to let the air in and let the air through the room. 你去开下门. 开 is also used for driving. 你会开车吗? Can you drive? And it's used for turning on lights. 开灯, turn on the lights. Next, 关, to shut or to turn off something. 随手关灯, turn off the lights as you leave. 关 also means to lock up something or someone. 警察把小偷关了起来. That means the policeman locked up the robber or the thief. Next up, 睡, to sleep. 他已经睡了. He's asleep already. Another phrase you can use in China involving sleep, it will really impress people, is towards bedtime, after dinner, evening time, when someone is leaving your house or you're leaving their house, you can say, 你早点睡, sleep early, get some rest. Next up is 穿, which I guess most commonly is to put on clothes. 快穿上外套. Quickly put on your jacket or put on your jacket quickly. But 穿 also is very commonly used to mean to go through something. So you can go through the forest or the park. 他们要从森林里穿过去. They're going to walk through the forest. Now we just learned 穿 for clothes. Why not learn how to take off clothes with the word 脱? 进门先脱鞋. Take off your shoes before entering. Next up is 问, which means to ask. 他问了我一个问题. You can also 问一下 someone's 意见. You can ask someone's opinion. 你最好, you had better 问一下. Ask 他的意见. Remember that 下 in there is just to make the suggestion softer. Next up is 回答, which means to reply or respond. 我回答了他的问题. Next up is 摸, to touch. 轻轻摸一下小狗. To pet the dog, gently pet the puppy. You can also use 摸 to mean fumble around. 他在口袋里摸了半天. He fumbled in his pocket for a long time. 踢, to kick, is the next verb. 他在踢足球. He is playing football. 他不小心踢到了我. He accidentally kicked me. That's how you say accidentally in Chinese. 不小心, like not carefully, that means accidentally. 踢到了我, kicked me. Next verb is 抬, which means to lift up an object. 帮忙把桌子抬过来. Help me carry the table over here. You can also use 抬 for 抬头. 她抬头看天空. She looked up at the sky. And while we're talking about 抬, let's talk about another word that also means to lift things. 举. Now, 举 is very similar to 抬, but 举 is more referring to things being raised all the way up, almost stretching to get up there. So it's used for lifting weights, for example, such as when people do clean and jerk, that sort of stuff. 他举起了杠铃. He lifted the barbell. And we can also use it for 举个例子, to give an example. And you can also say 举手 for raising your hand to answer a question. 举手回答问题. This next one is 提, and it's another word that means to lift something, but it's more about holding something next to you, like with your arms straight down by your sides. So, for example, holding shopping bags or a suitcase. 帮我提一下袋子，可以吗？帮我提一下袋子, help me carry this bag. And to 提 an 意见 is also to raise a concern or an opinion about something. or to raise a subject or raise a topic in conversation. So for example, someone brings up something you really don't want to talk about, you could just say 别提了,别提了. Don't bring that up. Next up, 讲, to discuss or talk. 你来讲几句. Come and say something. That's often what people say when they're asking you to give a speech of some kind. 老师在讲课. 老师, the teacher, is lecturing. He is talking about a class topic. 讲 is also used for bargaining. 讲价. 我不太会讲价. I'm not good at bargaining. Next verb, 放, means to put or release, depending on the context. 把书, take the books, and 放在桌子上, put them on the table. 放风筝 is to fly a kite, literally to 放, release a kite into the air. 我们去放风筝吧. And it's also used to pass gas, to release gas. 她放了个屁. She passed gas. Next verb is 用, to use. 用这支笔写字. Use this pen to write. Next up, 找, to look for. 我在找我的钥匙. I'm looking for my keys. Next up, 让. This is an interesting one too. It means to allow someone to do something and also to make someone do something, depending on the context. 你让我来吧. Let me do it. 让 also means to move out the way. So you might say, 麻烦让一下, 让一下. Can you move out the way so I can get through, please? Next up is 帮, to help. 他帮我学习中文. He helps me study Chinese, as I hope you would use to refer to me with these videos that I'm making for you, that I hope are very useful. Really common phrase that you'll use asking for help. 你能, can you 帮我一个忙吗? Can you do a favor for me? Can you help me with something? Next up, 闭, as in close. 闭上眼睛, 休息会儿. 闭上眼睛, close your eyes. 休息, rest 一会儿, a while. 把嘴闭上. Shut your mouth. This is really harsh, but it could be useful in certain situations. Next verb for you is 买, to buy. 妈妈去买东西了. Mum has gone to buy stuff, has gone shopping. And the opposite of buy is sell. 卖. 她在卖衣服. She's selling clothes. Next up is 得, as in must. Now this particular character is super common with another pronunciation of 的 with a fifth tone, and that's not a verb. But the verb version of this is still rather common. 得, as in must. 你得听我的. You need to listen to me. When it's pronounced 得, it means to obtain, but it's not used on its own. It's usually used with other characters, such as in 得到, to obtain. 我得到了一份新工作. I got a new job. Next up is 飞. 小鸟在空中飞. Bird is flying in the air. Next up is 游泳, to swim. 你会游泳吗? Can you swim? Next up is 骑, to ride something, usually a horse or a bike. 他喜欢骑自行车. He likes riding a bike. 他喜欢骑自行车. That's a tough one to say when you're just starting out. Next up is 挖, which means to dig. 他在挖个坑. He's digging a ditch or a hole. 没事，别挖耳朵. So 没事 is most commonly meaning, no problem. But in this situation, it means when you have nothing going on, when you have no 事 going on, 别挖耳朵. Don't dig your finger into your ears as like a bad habit. Next up, we have 刷, to brush. 她在刷鞋子. She's brushing her shoes. 我们每天都要刷牙. We all have to, every day, brush our teeth. 刷卡 means to use your credit card or debit card in a shop. 可以刷卡吗? Can I pay by card? Can I brush my card through your machine? 擦 is the next verb, meaning to polish or wipe. 把桌子擦干净, wipe the table clean. 你擦擦汗, 休息一会儿. You wipe your sweat away, have a rest. And 擦 could also mean if you scratch yourself and maybe there's a little bit of blood coming out. So you could say, 我的手擦破皮了. I scraped my hand. Next is 骂, to scold someone. 爸爸骂了我. 你为什么要骂人? 骂人 is like, why do you have to have a go at someone? Next up is 租, meaning to rent. 我们租了一套房子. We rented an apartment. Next is 扔, meaning to throw. 你把球扔过来给我. Take the ball and throw it to me. Throw the ball to me. It could also mean to 扔垃圾 to throw something away. 不要乱扔垃圾 which means no littering. 乱 means chaotic, so it's like doing it willy-nilly, doing it kind of like however you want. Next up, 躲 to hide. 他躲在门后. He's hiding behind the door. And you can also use this for escaping something, such as the rain. 他在车里躲雨. She's sheltering from the rain in the car. Next up, 选. 我选了红色的那个. I chose the red one. Next up, 谈 to discuss. 我们在谈事情. We're discussing some matters. So you use this in a more serious context. A less serious version of this word 谈 would be 聊, which basically means to chat. 大家一起聊天. Let's have a chat together. 你有空吗？我们聊一下. Are you free? Let's talk. Next up, 取, which means to collect something. 去银行取点钱. Go to the bank to withdraw some money. 我去取个快递. I'll go get a package. Now, the next few words are very closely related. They're what they call complements of direction, which essentially just means describing the direction that things are going in. And they're very similar, but you've got to make sure that you use the right one at the right time. So let's start with 上来, which means to come up. So 上 means up and 来 is the result of that, which means to come. 他从楼下上来了. He came up from downstairs. And the opposite would be 下来. So come down. 你先下来. You come down first. Then, of course, we have 上去, which means up, go, or go up. 电梯坏了. The elevator's broken. 我们得走上去. We have to walk up. Then, of course, we have 下去, which means go down, or down go, literally. 电梯下去了. The elevator is going down, or has gone down. So with these, just remember that it's all about the perspective of the person speaking. So if I was down below and I was looking at someone up, I would say, hey, 下来, come down. But if I was saying to my son, hey, go up and see your mother, I would say, 上去, go up, or up go. 过去 means to go there, to go over. So for example, 你过去帮我拿个快递. Go over there and get a 快递, a package for me. Or 过来, so you're over there, you're at the same level as me, but you're over there. 过来, come here. 你快过来, come over here quickly. Then we can also say 回来. 回 means to return, and 来 means come. Return come, or come back. 回来, 你终于回来了. 你终于, you finally 回来了, came back. And then of course we have 回去, go back, return back. 我们必须回去了. It's time for us to go back. We've got to go back. Next we have 学习. We talked about 学 before, and this is the full version of the word to study or to learn something. 他在努力学习新知识. He's diligently 努力 learning new knowledge 知识. Next up is 看见. 我看见外面有一只小鸟. I see a little bird outside. So we talked about 看 earlier, very early in the video. 看 means to look, like 看书, look at a book, or look at something in a store. But 看见, it's like another result complement. It's saying, I saw it and I've laid my eyes on it officially. I'm focused on it. 看见一只小鸟. Finally, we have 知道, to know. 我知道这件事儿, or 我知道这件事情. All right, so those are the 100 most common verbs in Chinese, along with all their different usages. Really, if you count all the different usages, we've got way over 100. And remember, you can download all of the audio from native speakers, studio quality male and female Chinese audio with English translations too, if you want them. And you'll also get a PDF with the text so you can read and listen at the same time, which is really good for you, especially if you're a lower level learner. If you would like a full guide to beginner conversational Chinese, you want to learn 99 more full phrases, you can go ahead and check out this video right here. Speak to you soon.